So you're a beginner to Jiu-Jitsu and you want to know what you can do to get better quickly. Guys, these are 5 tips to help the newbie in Jiu-Jitsu get better. And they're not what you think. Guys, my name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. Black belt under Master Pedro Sauer and Tony Rinaldi. You're watching Professor's Corner. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, all the buttons that YouTube has. By now, who knows, maybe it's 3042 and there's a new button to hit. Hit that one too. All right, so I'm going to start with something I think is really obvious today, but I know that a lot of noobs out there, newbies to Jiu-Jitsu, you want to get better. No one comes into Jiu-Jitsu with the thought of, hey man, I hope I suck at this. So the goal is to get better. The goal is to gain knowledge and gain skill. But the question is, how do you do that? Well, number 1, attend classes. How many classes should you attend? 2 to 4 classes per week is a pretty good sweet spot for most average people. Now look, you're trying to become a super athlete, something like that. Great, go ham. But for the average person who's coming in, you're 35 to 40 years old, it's been a long time since you've done sports, or you've never done any kind of physical activity before, jumping all in and doing 6 to 7 times a week is probably just going to get you injured, and you're probably going to get burnt out real quick and then not continue. So don't do that. You're going to get knowledge that you want by coming to 2 to 4 classes a week. And you're also going to be able to create a work or a Jiu-Jitsu life balance. And that's very important. And it's harder for younger athletes and younger Jiu-Jitsu practitioners to understand this quite as well when I talk to them. And it's something that as I've gotten older, I've understood better. And that is, we break down pretty easily. And doing too much too soon leads to overuse injuries and doesn't allow your body the physical adaptations it needs to do some of the movements that are required of Jiu-Jitsu. The most common injury I see by far is the dislocation of the intercostal cartilage of the ribs, or even a pulled intercostal muscle. And it's from the twisting, turning actions of Jiu-Jitsu. And there's really no way to mimic that. You could do a lot of exercises that help strengthen those. Breathing exercises are hugely important for it. If you want to, look up Wim Hof, probably the best breathing method you could go for. But with that said, you're just going to get burned out if you come too much. And you're going to want to. Like at first, it's just like anything else that's brand new. You want to do it all the time. What you don't want, though, is to fall in love with it, as I put in quotations, fall in lust with your jiu-jitsu, and then realize like 30 days later that you only want to come once a week. And the next thing you know, this came up, so I did that instead. And, then I let this business thing get in the way. And then the wife wanted to go out. And the next thing you know, it's been 4 months and you haven't been there. Then you feel weird about going back, and you just let it go. Or, maybe you're on a membership that goes for a year and you're like, well, I'll just renew it then, or whatever, don't let that happen. Which is going to come to the point number 2. So you're attending 2 to 4 classes a week. You want 2 to 4 classes a week. Let's just say 3 to make it easy, because that's the number in between 2 and 4. Communicate that with your family, and you don't have to communicate what you're doing, but allocate that time in your business life as well, your work life as well. Look, every once in a while, I get it. You've got a job and it has its own responsibilities, and sometimes that's going to get in the way. It's going to happen. And this brings up a different point altogether, but it's going to happen. For the most part, though, I don't care if you have to schedule it as meeting time, literally put it into your work schedule that you're not available during these hours, whatever it is you need to do, build that balance in and build that time in. That is your workout time. You are more productive as a human being. You are a better person the more you work out, as long as you're doing it in a healthy way. It is good for you, and you're going to work better. You're going to be a better husband. You're going to be a better father if you're doing these things. So make sure to schedule that time. Communicate with your family. One of the things I sat down, I train a lot, and sometimes I have to train extra because I've got a match coming up or whatever. And I talk to my family about this. Well, I have kids that are relatively young, And one of the things, they'll say, oh man, why do you got to go to the gym? Why do you got to work out? And I said, well, it's important that I stay healthy. And I go, do you know why? I look at it this way. I'm trading hours now for years later. Yeah, you're going to miss me 3-4 hours this week, but because I'm healthier, you're likely to get me for 5, 10, 15 more years of life. And that is way more valuable than like the 2 hours that you're missing out tonight because you wanted to sit down and watch, binge watch Sex in the City together. Like, I get it. Watch 1 episode of Sex in the City instead of 4. Do jiu-jitsu. And the same goes for the gym, quite frankly. You should be making time for both of those. You should, or at least some form of exercise in your life. Maybe it's not at the gym. Maybe you've got a home workout facility, or you have something you do, P90X. I don't know, whatever it is you do. But you need to be making time for all those things. But you have to communicate that with your family. The minute your wife, your significant other starts griping at you about how much you're gone, and that's usually your fault because you didn't set them up for how much you're going to do this. You didn't say, hey, this is important to me. This is something I'm going to do. And like you just said, oh yeah, it's a new activity I'm doing. And they expect it to be like weekend softball that you do once a week, right? No, this is not, you can't do that. You're going to get injured if you do that. You need them to be prepared and understand the value of it. Hey, this is so that if we get into a bad situation, I can get us out. This is so that I'm healthier and more fit so that I'm around for a longer period of time. We all know that my dad died at 52 years old. I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm not smoking. I don't drink. And because I want to stay healthier physically, I'm doing jiu-jitsu. These are the conversations you need to have with your family. And that's number 2. Communicate it with your family, allocate it with your work, make sure you create that time. All right. So those are 2 things that are not even on the mat, right? Like show up to class and then communicate with the family. Now the third one is on the mat. And that is as a white belt or as a newbie. I hate to say white belt because white belt can mean a lot of things depending on where you train. I've met white belts who've been training for 3 years. I think assuming they're training consistently for 3 years, I think it's ridiculous they're still a white belt. But that's a conversation for another time. But as a beginner, a newbie, it's very important that you balance training well versus training foolishly. And keep in mind that your job as a newbie is to survive and annoy, meaning make it hard to get you to submit you and try to survive longer in bad positions, but at the same time, tap a lot. And here's what I mean. Like you're not going to know moves well enough and you're not going to know escapes well enough to be trying to get out of bad positions such as arm bars and rear naked chokes and leg locks and all this stuff. Like you're more likely to get injured trying to get out of those positions because you've got to spin and twist and do all these foreign movements that your body's probably not ready for yet. Because you haven't drilled it hundreds of times that are going to build up the movement patterns that come with it. Plus, you may not quite be doing it right, and you're more likely to injure yourself. And a lot of times what happens in an injury like that is, let's say you're a newish white belt and you're rolling a blue belt, and the blue belt's trying a move or maybe a setup that they think they know pretty well, and you as a white belt are trying your escape that you think you know okay, and the blue belt, because it's not quite working, they're not like, screw this guy, I'm just going to break his arm, snap. They're like, oh, maybe I don't have it right. So they make an adjustment and they pull harder. And it turns out that you weren't doing it quite right. And then when they pulled harder, bam, snap, there goes your arm. Now you got to go have surgery and you're out for 9 months. And to be clear, like you kind of did that to yourself. When you're in these bad positions, it's very important that you just tap. Save that survival mentality, like in the submissions, for later. With that said, show some heart. Don't give up just because you're tired, right? Like, I'm in the bottom of mount. There's no submission on. I'm just tired. I'm just exhausted. I'm going to tap because I'm out. No. That's when you work hard. That's how we develop the cardiovascular ability. That's how we develop our breathing. That's how we develop a calm mind. It's very important to try to survive in those situations. for your own sake, not just your training partners. Now, maybe they get the choke locked on a little easier because you're exhausted. So be it. But wait until they get it on, and try to annoy them and make it hard for them to get the grips and stuff that they want. That's really your job, is to survive longer in today than you did yesterday. So survive and annoy, but don't be stupid about your body. Remember, people sometimes forget they're not pulling on their own arm. They're not twisting their own neck, right? So they get a hold of it and they're like, oh, I'll just go like this. And it's like, whoa, bro. That's not your neck you're twisting on. That's somebody else's. Let's go gentle on that. All right. So that's number 3. Number 4, try the moves. I can't say this enough. Try the moves you're being shown. And this, I tend to see it more from 3 perspectives. 1, someone who's new and legitimately is trying the stuff and it's just not working for them because they don't have the timing down or the movement patterns down or whatever. That's fine. The second is people who wrestled before, and please don't forget your wrestling. If you wrestled, freaking remember the wrestling. Don't forget. But try the new moves too, right? Don't just depend on your wrestling to get you out of everything. That's great. You're going to come in handy. Don't forget how to do it. It's phenomenal. Wrestling is a phenomenal complement to jiu-jitsu. But don't just wrestle your way out of everything for the same reason. You might just injure yourself, right? Like someone gets you in a Kimura. Well, in wrestling, that's an illegal move. So, you're used to them having to let go. They may not let go. Now you just break your own arm. And a Kimura, by the way, is one of the number 1 places to get injured in jiu-jitsu. And it ends up shattering the bone of the upper arm called the humerus. So, really bad move to get hit with, and illegal in wrestling, but you feel it a lot. So a lot of times, you expect people to let go. They won't. Try the moves. Now, the third time. So we've got the person who's trying them and the timing's bad. The movement patterns are bad. We've got the person who's using some other martial art. Maybe you did Wing Chun. Maybe you did wrestling. Maybe you did boxing. I don't know. Whatever you're doing, you're trying something that isn't what you've been shown to do. Try what you're shown to do. And then you've got the third person who wants to, but doesn't remember them, right? Like you high five, you fist bump, and then just blank slate. And you're like, I don't know what to do. Okay. So for that person, if that's you, here's a way to do this. You have to train when you're at home, when you're not at jiu-jitsu. And what do I mean by that? Like grab your kid? Well, maybe do it with your kid. That'd be a phenomenal bonding experience probably. But more than that, it's just forcing yourself to remember the moves later in the day and then later in the week. And if you go to a reputable school, they probably are going to be training something, a specific set of moves for an entire week or even entire month. And so like you have plenty of time to get exposed to them in the academy, but also you want to expose yourself over to them over time. And just sit there with a pillow and pretend to choke the pillow or whatever move it is. Guillotine choke. Okay, it went like this. I grab my hand, I lift. Cool. Anything you can get a hold of, just practice the move. Practice those movement patterns even when no one's around, right? Because you're not going to do that kind of training in the academy because, well, you have people there now. There's no point in doing that kind of training when you could do real training. So it's really important, though, that you're forcing yourself to remember this stuff and recall it over time. That's one of the number 1 things you can do to help with memorization of literally anything is forced recall over time. The other thing you can do is start trying to make connections to stuff you do remember. Be like, well, it turns out like I can do this straight ankle lock and it's kind of looks like that guillotine that I do too. High hands. Oh, I can lock it up. Try to make those connections in your mind. And the more you can connect things, the easier it is to remember as well. And then in your mind, just literally go through a roll in your mind, like lay there on the couch and just like close your eyes and think, okay, I'm reaching into the collar, I'm grabbing the sleeve, I'm putting my knee in place, I'm sweeping them over, I'm on top, I've got a cross choke here, I've got an arm bar here. And the more you practice that in your brain, the easier it's going to be when you actually slap, bump, and go. You'll be ready for those things. And that's hard and it takes a little discipline, but like literally like 5, 6, 7 minutes of your time, when you're not doing anything else, you're just resting. It's a good way to fall asleep. Sometimes I just fall asleep doing that in my mind. That's a great way to train, and it's going to help you remember stuff. So that's number 4, is try the moves. Number 5, and I think this is probably the most important thing you can do to improve your jiu-jitsu, and more importantly, stick with it for the rest of your life. Embrace the community that you are in. Look, I know that sounds a little culty, and I don't mean for it to sound that way. You're not being coerced into anything. Like, if they're trying to like, hey, why don't you, give us all your money and sell your house and then just live at the academy? Well, that sounds a little shady. Find someone else. But embrace the community you're in. Everybody's going to be different. Every school is going to be different. They're all going to be a little different, have a little bit of, do things a little different. Some bow, some don't bow, some, high five, fist bump, some fist bump and high five. So, like whatever it is, some just do no gi, some do just gi, whatever it is. Make sure, one, that, and you'll know within 4, 5, 6 months if you feel like you're part of this community, right? Like if you feel like you can belong there. And if you don't, change schools. Don't be afraid to change schools, because you're like, you know what? They're nice people, but like, there's just, I just don't click with them, like I'm just not clicking. Like, I get that. That's a real thing. I have had people quit my school for that reason, and that's okay. They went to another school. They're like, yeah, my friend trains over at so-and-so's place. I think I'm going to go try that. And I'm like, you know what? That's awesome. I'm glad you're not quitting jiu-jitsu, right? Like that's, as a coach, that's my way to do it. I'd love to be perfect for everybody, but I'm not. I'm just not everybody's flavor. It's just the way it is. And it's going to be the same no matter where you go. So find a group you like, a bunch of people that you feel like, man, if I hung out with these guys for the next 20 years, I'm going to be better myself and I'm not going to be worse for it. And that's what really matters. That is something that's going to keep you coming back forever. Even after you have a kid and you had to take 2 months off because, you needed to get used to the new schedule with the baby and all that stuff. These huge life events are going to happen, and they're going to get in the way, and they're going to challenge you to see if you really want to do jiu-jitsu. And when those things happen, what's going to bring you back, what's going to make you want to come back is, hey, this is where my friends are. And I really like being around these people. They're good people. I trust them. I trust them with my neck. I trust them with my arms. And I want to keep working out with these guys. That's probably the number one thing you can do to keep coming back to jiu-jitsu. So whatever method of community building that your school has, that you're at, become part of it. Oh, but I'm not on Facebook. Create a false Facebook account, get in their Facebook group. Do it. Stop trying to be something other than that. Don't be an outsider. But I don't like going to the bar. Okay, cool. If they are going to the bar every night and that's not for you, maybe that's where you make that decision that, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm going down the street to those guys. They have more of a, go to a public picnic vibe. I don't know. You get what I'm saying. Point is, embrace the community you're in and change it up for you if needed. Be part of the team, participate, be enthusiastic to be there, ask questions. All right, guys, what do you have? I want you to give me your number one tip for a new person that isn't just do this move, right? Because there's like a million videos on Facebook that are all, or on YouTube or whatever, that are all about like, here's the number one move a beginner should know, right? Like, and it's fucking armbar or something dumb, whatever, something yeah, of course you should know. Everybody should know it, right? Like, it's like, what a weird title for a video. It's just clickbait. I hate that. As I say that, there's probably going to be clickbait in this video. Oh, here, I got to do this. Oh, look down here. Oh, there's that. That way I have like a nice little thumbnail I can pick, right? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Talk to you later.